There's not a whole lot to the practice of time blocking, really. You just make a timeline and then you slot in the tasks that you want to do when you want to do them. But this practice is also what I consider to be the single most important productivity tool on the planet, especially if you want to be more intentional with how you spend your time. It's simple, but it's not easy, and it goes a long way toward making sure that you consistently take action on the things that are important to you. But it is completely fair to ask, right here at the beginning of this video, do you really need an app for this? The short answer is no, you don't need one. This technique can be just as effective with a pen or pencil and a blank sheet of paper. In fact, that's the way that I've been doing it for a very long time. But in this video, I want to share a workflow with you that I've been trying for the last couple of months that involves not one, but actually two different apps. Now, the first is no surprise, it's Obsidian, which is what I use for all my tasks and projects. The second one is an app that is new to me, and it's called Morgen. It's kind of like a calendar app, but it has a bit of a different focus in that it tries to help you better plan your day. Now, thanks to the new Obsidian integration that is in Morgen, these two apps now go together like peanut butter and jelly. I'll walk through exactly how I'm using them together, but first let's talk a little bit about time blocking in general and how we got here. Now, you may have seen in a previous video where I walked through how to time block in Obsidian using the Day Planner plugin. It was an experiment I tried a while back that unfortunately never really stuck for me. One of the main reasons it didn't stick is that there wasn't an easy way to view my tasks alongside all my calendar events. Now, since then, I've also gone all in with the Obsidian Tasks plugin, and in my last video, I shared how I put together my own task management dashboard in a canvas view that shows all my essential lists, which meant that unfortunately the Day Planner plugin was just not going to work with the way that I wanted to manage my tasks. So I've been using that task dashboard along with another query in my daily note that shows me the tasks that are due today. I combine those and I get my list of tasks, then I slot those in when I block my time in the morning using my fancy pen and a notebook. I make a timeline for my entire day, I put in my calendar events, and then I slot in my 3 to 5 most important tasks from those lists in Obsidian. Then I'd transfer the task to a note card, prop it up on my desk in an UgMug analog holder, and I'd work off that note card as I went through my workday. And to be honest, I was pretty happy with this workflow. It didn't really feel like anything was missing. But then the team at Morgen went out and they built a direct integration with Obsidian that lets you schedule your Obsidian tasks on a drag and drop user interface alongside all of your existing calendar events. And well, I had to give it a shot. A spoiler alert, I'll tell you right now, it's really well done. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I use it and how you can set it up for yourself. Now, first, if you've never used Morgen before, it's basically a calendar app that brings your tasks from various places into a scheduling interface so that you can schedule them alongside your meetings and events. While you can add to-dos directly in Morgen, the real winner here, in my opinion, is the ability to pull in tasks from other apps and services like Notion, ClickUp, and Todoist. And now, even Obsidian. You can drag your tasks from the sidebar onto the calendar on the right to schedule your important tasks. And when you complete a task in Morgen, you get this fancy little animation, and then it syncs the status and the task completion date back to the original service. This is a great feature if you have your tasks in multiple places. Being able to time block both your personal and your work tasks in one interface makes it really easy to do. Now, here's how you set it up. First, you need to make sure that you have tasks in your Obsidian Vault and that you're using the Obsidian Tasks plugin to manage them. You also need to make sure that you're using the tasks emoji format in the Obsidian Tasks settings. This is important because it's going to allow Morgen to recognize the due date for tasks and then slot them into the appropriate section in that Morgen sidebar. All right, now let's jump over to Morgen and look at how to sync tasks from Obsidian. First, click on the Connect to Task Integration button in the sidebar, then scroll down and select the Obsidian option under the Local Integrations section. Now it says it's in beta, but it's available to everyone. Next, click the Connect to Vault button and select the folder that contains your Obsidian tasks, then click Open. Once you connect your Vault, your tasks will show up in the Morgen sidebar and they'll be grouped according to the task due date. Now from here, you simply drag your tasks on your calendar to schedule them on your default planning calendar, and you can set this in the Morgen settings. And checking a task as complete will sync the task status and the completed date back to your local Obsidian Vault. That's basically all there is to it, but there is a lot of nuance that goes into this. So let's dive into the Morgen Obsidian integration settings for a bit and talk through a few things. First, there's a section where you can choose which notes Morgen looks at when you're finding tasks to sync. The first option here is whether you want to include or exclude notes by default. This basically sets whether you opt in or opt out notes when syncing those tasks to Morgen. If you want to choose to override this setting at any time and choose whether a note syncs its tasks with Morgen, you can set a checkbox property in Obsidian for Morgen-tasks-include, and then either check it to sync them or uncheck it to skip them. This is a pretty clever way to manage which notes Morgen scrapes tasks from if you want granular control over that kind of thing. There's also a section for which files to exclude, but this is actually set in Obsidian instead of Morgen. So to add files here, you have to go to the Obsidian settings, go to the Files and Links section, and find the Excluded Files section. Click the Manage button to add files here, which will also hide them from Search, Graph View, and your unlinked mentions. Next, you can choose which folders to ignore if you want. So for example, if you have a folder with templates that contain tasks, you may want to choose to ignore that folder here. You can also choose to ignore tasks on old notes if you want, which won't import tasks from notes that haven't been modified in the last 30 days. By default, this is set to import tasks from all notes, but you can change this via a toggle if you want to. The next section shows the global task filter, and that gets imported from the Obsidian task settings as well. I have mine set to #to-do, which makes sure that my checklist items don't accidentally get identified as tasks. It's only pulling in the things that have that tag. The next section is the one that you really need to pay attention to though, which is automatic task ID insertion. This is where things could really go sideways if you're not careful. Basically, the way Morgen works is that it automatically adds a unique ID property to each task that it finds in Obsidian. And this is required for those tasks to show up in Morgen. That's the way that Morgen is able to tell what a specific task is. So for this section, you can handle this one of two ways. You can have Morgen add IDs to your tasks, or you can have Morgen only pull in tasks that have a unique ID property. That seems like a lot to manage for me, so the first way is probably the better way. But I had never used these in my Obsidian tasks before, so I was a little hesitant to just let Morgen go wild with this. The problem is that Morgen can add those IDs easily, but if you decide for some reason you don't want them anymore, you have to go line by line through all your tasks and manually remove them from each line and every note in your Obsidian vault. So it could pretty easily make a mess of your Obsidian tasks if you're not careful. Now there are ways around this. For example, the team at Morgen actually wrote an Obsidian plugin that automatically hides these IDs from all the tasks in your Obsidian vault. Or you could simply add a line that says hide IDs to your Obsidian task queries. I chose the latter, and while I was a little bit worried about adding IDs to my tasks at first, I don't ever see them, so it really doesn't bother me anymore. Just know that this is happening before you toggle this on if you have a reason that this might mess things up. Now the last preference here is whether you want to automatically add a completed date to each task when it's marked as complete in Morgen. And this is on by default, and I choose to just keep this on. So that's the integration. Now here's how I'm using it. I'll tell you up front that I haven't given up on my analog time blocking practice. I absolutely love time blocking my day in my fancy notebook with my fancy pen at the beginning of my workday. There's something about doing it in a different tool. I doubt that that will ever change, honestly. But where I have found this integration between Morgen and Obsidian tasks to be extremely helpful is during my shutdown routine the day before. When I'm done working for the day, I basically look at my calendar for tomorrow and then I schedule the tasks that are due tomorrow for the next day ahead of time. This pre-planning only takes a couple of minutes and it helps me hit the ground running when I get back to the office the next morning. I look at my time block plan in Morgen, I recreate it in my notebook, make adjustments as I need to, and then I fill in the rest of the timeline until every hour has a job. Then I transfer my 3 to 5 most important tasks to that note card that I prop up on my desk. Then I work off that note card throughout the day, and I mark the tasks off as complete in Morgen as part of my shutdown routine before planning the next day. If you've never looked at Morgen before, I highly recommend you do so. There are a lot of little touches about this app that I absolutely love, like the grading that gets applied when an event appears on more than one visible calendar. It's not really a calendaring app, and it's not really a task manager either. It's sort of a bridge between them. If I had to define it, it's a scheduling app that helps you make sure that you follow through on your most important tasks. They've got a bunch of additional planning features as well, and they've also got invitation links and booking pages that you can share with people so they can schedule time on your calendar. The Pro version, which offers the task integrations and the time blocking, as well as the booking pages, invitation links, and AI planning features, is not cheap. It's about $108 per year if you pay annually. But if you're looking for a tool that doesn't just show you your calendars and instead helps you figure out when you're going to get your most important work done, it's pretty powerful. Now, I am a paying Fantastical user, and in the last couple of months, I've actually moved all of my calendaring over to Morgen as well. So I still have my Fantastical subscription, but honestly, if I had to choose right now, I'd probably let it go and use Morgen instead. Now, it doesn't mean it's perfect though. For example, it's local only, which means that you really can't use this integration on mobile, at least not yet. Now, once your tasks get pulled into Morgen, you can have those notifications fire on the mobile version, but those notifications really don't work with the tasks themselves inside of Obsidian. I do also wish that the integration didn't require adding those ID properties, but it hasn't really caused any problems for me, so it's okay for now. Now, if you think Morgen might be for you, you can check it out for yourself by heading over to morgen.so, or you can use the link in the video description below. Now, full disclosure, that is an affiliate link, so using that link helps me out a little bit. But this is not a sponsored video. I'm just a really big fan of this app. I've heard people like Danny Hatcher rave about Morgen, but I never really understood what the big deal was until I tried out the Obsidian integration for myself. That's what made it click. I completely understand this is not for everyone, but I am really enjoying using this as not just my full-time calendar app, but also as an essential part of my time blocking workflow. And if you just want a little bit more in terms of PKM tips, check out my free Obsidian Starter Vault. There's a bunch of free tips, templates, and resources for Obsidian, and includes a curated collection of things to help you get more out of your notes and ideas. You can download the Starter Vault for free by going to practicalpkm.com/vault. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in another video.